Salutations, my name is Drunker, and today we are back with another episode of Crave Saga. That is right. So, looks like we have a new event for us to look through, and it is called Altite Swim Contest, a mysterious full body challenge. That's right. So, for those of you who don't know, this features characters that I've actually I have already pulled for banners. The other one, I think oh wait, no, that should be posted. Posted really early, the Altite Swim contest. But yeah, so, oh, what the heck? So if you know these banners, yep, these banners exist, and I actually do have a pull for this full sesh, and a game for Tagmard. As you can see, I am 60 pulls in. And then we also got this gacha, which features Great Marine Detective Granroot and Nemes. He is the sacred of this banner, so I've already pulled for him, and I've already gotten him, so let us proceed to the Altite Swim Contest. Oh wow. Well, last time we read Alpha Blaze, and it was an event. It truly was. Maybe not to my expectation, but it was still a pretty interesting event to read through. So yeah. Yep, we got 10 stories to go through, and looks like we're gonna be starting with story 0. A certain scandal. Not sure what that means, but let us proceed to the story. Let me check my mic if it's working. One sunny day, on the outskirts of a desolate remote town, a shadow surrounded by the scent of wafted purple smoke made its way through. Contrary to the brightness of the radiating sun, the shadow's gait was heavy. Ooh, we got Granroot here, so he is a detective. At least from what his attire is showing. Really does look similar. The scent of grass on the gentle breeze and the sound of a babbling brook somewhere nearby. While evoking a sense of nature, the presence of visible houses assert human activity. As Granroot looked at this scene, he superimposed it on an image flashing through his mind of the past. On sunny days like this, I used to sit in the shade of a tree like that and read a book. And that house, which is spelt wrong, it resembles my childhood home, invoking a sense of nostalgia. My childhood home was a small, unremarkable house on the outskirts of a certain town. And if there was one difference between the houses, it would be books my father bought me. My father, Artel, was a busy man with a demanding job that often kept him away from home. And that's why I spent so much of my time alone from a small age. The abundance of books was like a father to me, teaching me various lessons. Among them, the ones I particularly enjoyed reading were these pop-up books with riddles for kids. They were easy to understand. They had a main character and a detective who solves the case. Looking back now, the stories are childish but fascinating enough to captivate me at the time. Thanks to that, I didn't even notice how lonely I was being alone in that quiet house. Though I never did forget about my father, even for just a moment. I think it was because of my father that I was able to get peace of mind immersing myself in books. And then, my everyday life, fragile and fleeting, suddenly crumbled away. My father, he had been arrested. The criminal organization, Shitsuokai, has been committing crimes, including kidnapping from around then. My father was branded with the worst possible stigma, being labeled as the leader of this organization. as this information was crucial. I don't know anything other than what was publicized, but wax-sealed black envelopes favored by the Shitsuokai were found at my father's workplace. Details of what happened were concealed, and my father was handcuffed simply because of the evidence. Even though we were somewhat distant from a young age, my father was still my father. I immediately insisted that my father could not be a criminal. Like a pop-up book detective, I went to the jailhouse every day, believing I had to pursue the truth. But the adults never listened to what I, a child, had to say. The only saving grace was that the sheriff felt sorry for me and secretly let me see my father in jail. It was the night before my father was sentenced to death. I'll never forget the time we held hands, exchanging words through the bars in the darkness. It wasn't just because it was the last time we were alone as father and son, but that day was when my ability to read thoughts of those I touched in the darkness blossomed. Perhaps it was a miracle brought about by my desire to believe in my father's innocence and help him. As a result, I understood my father's regret and the depth of his love for me, and became even more convinced of my father's innocence. However, my father was never found innocent, and his sentence was carried out. That death penalty, even now, looking back, it is an excessively harsh punishment. It is far too opaque and tyrannical. And what was the social significance of his execution? Considering the Shitsuokai still operates in the underworld, I find this highly unquestionable. Anyway, those events cast a dark shadow over my life. And at the same time, that became a turning point for me, leading me down the path of truth, aspiring to become a detective. Granrod looked up at the sky as this path suddenly came to mind. What stretched out before him was a cloudless blue sky. Father, I will prove your innocence with my own two hands someday. Granrod placed his tightly clenched fist on his chest and closed his eyes. And after offering a prayer to his father, he slowly opened his eyes. Well then, let's get to work. Granrod shifted his gaze to the old house in front of him and took a deep breath. And without the slightest hesitation, he knocked on the door of this house. Pardon me. Oh, Granrod, I've been waiting for you. So what about my child? Where is my child? Please, calm down. I'll explain the details of the investigation in full. Sorry. Granrod cleared his throat and straightened his collar, and then, concerning the case of the villager in front of him had asked him to solve, he began recounting the results of his investigation into the client's suddenly missing child. What is up with the spelling errors? First, regarding your missing child, currently his whereabouts are unknown. That can't be. But I do have a suspect in mind who could have caused this. A culprit, in other words. You do? What in Vestria happened? Was he attacked by a horde of monsters or something after all? No, it is likely your child was kidnapped by a member of the Shitsuokai. The Shitsuokai? You mean that criminal organization? Seeing the clients visibly distraught, Granrod nodded calmly. Yes, while searching for your child, I was led to the Shitsuokai, and I managed to get an opportunity to question someone in that organization. At the time, I obtained information that your kidnapped child was sold to someone named Gayank. Sold? Yes, as research material. What the? So your child may have already been used as a subject in Gayank's human experiments. And is already... Impossible! Seeing the despair in his client's face, Granrod shook his head, decided not to say anything more. The results of this investigation are merely my own speculation, but Jayank's actions, his character, and the time in which the client's child went missing. Considering all that, it is reasonable to assume the child has already passed away. Unfortunately, all the evidence I have gathered are telling me this is the case. Would you mind if I ask you something? What is it? What about the Shitsuokai? You crushed them, right? Well... Come on, tell me you crushed them! But you interrogated someone from the Shitsuokai, did you not? If it was a high-ranking member, you could have extracted enough to launch a crackdown on them. It was a member without an official title Granrut had dealt with. He was in a position where he still lacked decisive power to bring down the organization. However, the client, who lost the child, could not accept this so easily. Stop messing with me! What the hell do you think I hired you for? Aren't you supposed to be some great detective? Come on! Say something, you fake detective! Granruk was not responsible for the incident. The man had no right to hurl insults at him. But Granruk could still understand the villagers' helpless anger and sorrow. What kind of great detective can save a single child? It was a mistake to ask you for help. And that's so he endured the man's outburst until the very end. This is called the Distinguished Client. After finishing his stomach-turning investigation report, Granrut returned to his office. Even Granrut seemed exhausted as he was smoking twice the amount of cigarettes after returning. Wow. That was a bit much. I've never imagined the Shitsuokai, the group behind my father's death. I thought it was beheaded. What's up with the spelling errors? I never imagined the Shitsuokai, the group behind my father's death, would be involved with Gyank. Perhaps I will learn more about the Shitsuokai if I investigate a little further this time. If so, then I could figure out and find out about my father too. Muttering to himself, Granrut brought his shortened cigarette to his lips. And just as he was about to take a puff, he heard a knock at his office door. Come in. The door was then forced open as a noble-looking man came in. Huh? Patrosi? It's been ages since I last saw you. I haven't seen you since Sweet Contest of Love. Well, at least in my playthrough. Excuse me, you're the famous Detective Granrut, are you not? Indeed. Oh, thank goodness. I am Patrosi, a food critic. Sorry to be so sudden, but are you willing to immediately take on my request? If things continue like this, something huge is going to happen. That wouldn't be good. Would you mind telling me more about exactly what it is that happened? Oh, sorry, seems I got a little carried away. Actually, I received a letter with no return address. Here it is. As you can see, it's written in deliberately childish handwriting. Patrosi took the carefully folded letter from his pocket and handed it to Granrut. And when Granrut took it, he spoke aloud what was written in it. The child, hungry from running, was tempted by and ate an entire plate of food. Before he then vanished. But why is that? At first glance, it seemed like a riddle. However, Granrut's eyes widened at the letter's contents. He immediately let out a wry smile and shrugged his shoulders. Is this some childish prank? Well, if it were just a letter, I would have probably thought the same thing. Patrosi said this as he took something else out of his pocket. What's that? Granrut's eyes changed color when he saw the envelope he had taken out. The envelope was jet black and it was sealed with amber-colored wax. Is that from the Shitsuokai? As expected of the great detective, of course you would know. Yes, this notorious item here is supposedly favored by the criminal organization, the Shitsuokai. I heard rumors of the Shitsuokai while traveling in the past. That's how I know about them. So, After seeing this, doesn't it make the contents of that letter from earlier seem different? And then, I was also invited as a guest to the Altite swim run, which will be held soon in Altite. I was just informed about this the other day, and that exactly when this letter came. It uses the phrase, the child hungry from running. Which makes me think this isn't the doing of a child pretending like they've committed a crime. The Altite swim run. A great sports competition where athletes team up and run and swim, traversing a grueling course. So you think something's going to happen there. I'm thinking something could be planning a murder or something during the event. I see. However, Mr. Patrosi. Patrosi's fine. Not the fan of formality. Understood. I'll take you up on that then. Patrosi, it's too early to jump to conclusions. We've far too little evidence. Yes, you're right. Guess I'm just half imagining things. But what about this envelope? Can we just leave this be? Certainly can't do that. Which is why I want to ask you to investigate. I want you to verify whether this is a real threat of violence or not. By the way, I'm not the only one who received this letter. Guy, owner chef of Bistro Guy, where saved as a consultant, he also received one. He saw that in Sweet Contest of Love. So if this threat was directed at the food and beverage industry, I can't overlook it. Can't let the infamous Shitsuokai plan to stir up trouble in our industry. Guy seemed to feel the same way, of course, but he was very busy, so he left this to me. Patrosi said this and reached into his pocket for the third time, and the next thing he took out of his pocket was... This is the swim run entry form with our names written on it. We've already been entered, of course. What do we have here? Many people from nations all over are expected to gather at Altite on the day. So, in order to avoid confusion, only those who've applied in advance will be allowed inside. For the purpose of the investigation, I used my invitation privileges to register you in advance. And so for appearance's sake, you'll be participating in the swim run. Wouldn't be normal to wander around the Altite area under the pretext of swim run practice. Apparently, this swim run will test not only our physical strength, but also our intelligence. And to get through this, I decided to team up with you, renowned as the Great Detective. And if we spread that info, it should make it easier for us to get cooperation in the investigation. I see. That's a great plan and initiative. However, Patrosi, didn't you consider the possibility that I might refuse? No way you'd refuse. You're the Great Detective after all. Confronting criminal organizations is your destiny, is it not? Patrosi said this in an entirely convincing way, and Granred couldn't help but give a wry smile. He then nodded slightly. That's right, this is fate. My father and I, and our undeniable fate surrounding the Shitsuokai. If we're going to pursue the Shitsuokai, then this is clearly the perfect opportunity, so... I will most definitely accept your request. Granred then stood up, extending his right hand to Patrosi. Ooh, we're now in... Where are we? I don't remember, but we are in Altite, and this is called Mask Mystery. Some time ago, around when Granred and Patrosi were shaking hands, in a corner of the town of Altite, Dradelut groaned softly to himself. Perhaps I shouldn't have accepted this so easily. No, but it being Lord Fashua who personally asked me, Dradelut was lord ruling over Cryanol, a small territory located between Kusan and Altite. What was troubling him was a request he received from Fashua, leader of Altite, whom he was friends with. The contents of the request was to manage to operate the swim run in place of Fashua, who was busy. If this would have been a traditional swim run event, there would be no need to worry, but in bringing in a breath of fresh air while also preserving tradition, Fashua witnessed the fusion of tradition and modernity when participating in the Altite Music Festival. As a result, Fashua changed his way of thinking, which had been merely based on respecting tradition. Fashua's reason for asking Jadulet, an outsider, to act in his place wasn't solely because he was busy. Something new. Anyway, I need to come up with something before the event. Feeling pressured, Jadulet hurried from his lodgings to the management office. And then, when Jadulet turned to the main street into an alley to take a shortcut. Huh? Who are you? Huh? A masked figure stood calmly in the shaded alley, blocking Jadulet's way forward. Who are you? I can't be held, taken away, put anywhere. Those with me are strong, and those without me are weak. What am I? You. What are you up to all of a sudden? Answer. Answer? Is this a riddle or something? The person standing before him was a mysterious figure who had just appeared. Although he had no obligation to answer, Jadulet responded out of the strangeness of the situation. Can't be held, taken, or put away. Doesn't that mean it isn't tangible? But those with it are strong, and those with it are weak. Jadulet wrenched his neck. After thinking about it for a while, he was about to ask if he could get any hints. Time's up. As soon as the masked figure said this, he kicked Jadulet, sending him rolling to the ground. What's the answer? Pride. Oh. Pride? Invisible, untakeable, but it does exist, noble and motivated with it, and fall into depravity without it. Would you not call this pride? Jadulet's eyes widened at the words of the masked figure. Oh, you're right. I definitely would. Jadulet, as lord of a small but populous territory, lived each day with a deep sense of responsibility. Originally, he was particularly sensitive to the word pride. He just appeared in front of me, and then he poses a riddle which sees right through my beliefs. Could this really just be a coincidence? No, even it is. Thinking this, Jadulet was impressed and moved by the riddle posed by the masked figure. And at the same time, something was floating around in Jadulet's mind. Masked man! Huh? Your riddle, I was very impressed by it. And that's not all, I think our meeting must surely be fate. Without waiting for a reaction from the masked man, Jadulet abruptly rose to his feet. And with a little excitement and inspiration, he closed the distance between him and the masked man. I am Jadulet, lord of the small territory of Cryonal, and representative for the Altite swim run. What is your name? I'm Nemes, the gotcha guy. In the banner. Sir Nemes, your words, no, your riddle, there's a mysterious charm to it. I want to bring that charm to the swim run. Won't you help us out? I refuse. I'm not interested in such trouble. Please, isn't there something you could do? Many challengers from all over Vestria will gather for the swim run. We can provide a platform for you to showcase your riddles. You can convey the charm of your riddles to so many people. Wow. Bro didn't even think about that he might get kidnapped and was like, we really need your help. Like, oh. Nemes remained silent, but Jadulet didn't miss the slight movement of his lips. And then, seeing an opportunity there, he racked his brain trying to string together his next words. And not only will we showcase them, but we will also incorporate them into the competition. We can make it for a format something like, those who cannot solve the riddle cannot proceed. Wouldn't you like to see many people stumped and surprised by the riddles you pose? Oh. Finally, Nemes reacted in an easy to understand way, then mixing a slight smile into what he was saying. My mystery cannot be solved so easily. Very well. I will go along with what you are saying. Oh, thank you so much. Jadulet Jadolit bowed to his head in response to Nemes' answer. Nemes then took a step closer to Jadolit, making him raise his head. No need to thank me. More importantly, is there somewhere we can talk quietly, away from prying eyes? We have a private room for personal use in the swim run management office. That should work. Sounds good. Take me there. I have a good proposal for you. Yes! Thus, Jadolit secured Nemesis' cooperation as they proceeded with their plan to create a new form of swimrun. A few weeks before the Altite swimrun, even though there was still time before the event, many people were already gathered in Altite. Orientation was scheduled before the main event, which seems to be why people were gathered. Ooh! We got Great Marine Detective Grand Route! Look at his outfit! A slightly lighter, lightly black colored swim trunk with gold. Interesting choice, but okay. More people than I expected. Guess it's no surprise. Ooh, and we got Patrosi. Did you get a tan? That was quick. But yeah, it is a traditional sport event after all. Only natural to see this many. Wow, ooh. Still, I always thought you detectives were such intellectuals. But you look pretty good in activewear as well. Really? Thanks. I may not look like it, but I don't spend all my time just sitting in an armchair. I did initially chose a swimsuit that was a little looser. But if I'm gonna run long distances, I figured I needed something like that supports my waist. You mean this? Okay. And as for the color, I prefer black. Okay, preferences. But what surprises me is that the same goes for you, huh? Okay. Your outfit now is a total change. It's a design that reflects your personal taste and suits you well. As expected of the great detective, so observant, your compliments are also very clear. I was also surprised you could tell from my tan that I've been practicing on my own while I was away. I'm honored by your compliment, but I'm not good with flatteries, just saying what I thought. You're making me blush. I don't usually choose these colors, so I wasn't sure if they suit me. I just always wanted to try wearing them. And this was a good opportunity, so I chose something bright and breathable. Breathable, huh? Preventing stuffiness certainly is important for long distance running. Right? Oops, look at the special stage. That's Jadolit, the organizing committee chairman. Seems it's finally starting. Shall I move over there? Granite and Patrosi shared a nod as they followed the crowd towards the special stage. Oh goodness. We're back. And just as they arrived in a position where they could see the stage, Jadolit spoke. Participants, thank you for taking the time to attend the opening ceremony for our swim run. Now let me first explain the event outline. This time we have some new things in store. Please listen carefully as you decide whether to participate. As Jadolit called out loudly, a slight murmur rippled through the venue. It was previously announced that the swimrun event would include a mentally demanding portion, but the details have been kept secret until today, and all participants were equally curious about them. As you know, the Altite swimrun is a long-distance event where two people groups work together. The route is the same, starting at Altite and going all the way to Alolatinion Resort. From the resort, you'll be swimming from the cape south of the resort and heading towards the desert. And from there, you'll run back to the finish line in Altite as quickly as possible. A variety of fantastic prizes for all divisions have been prepared for the top winners. Among them are many extremely delicious top-quality gourmet items. We have the cooperation of the food critic Patrosi, a guest participant, as supervisor. Dradolit said that, having apparently spotted Patrosi at some point, giving him a knowing gaze. Then, as if planned in advance, Patrosi, with a smug smile on his face, ascended the stage. Hello everyone, I'm Patrosi, the food critic. Lord Dradolit has already explained everything, so I'll skip the details. But this time, we prepared dishes inspired by the artistic city of Altite. Not only do they taste great, but they're exquisite items that are delicious just to look at. By all means, do your best to attain the top results and enjoy them to the fullest. Patrosi's word brought a different kind of murmur to the venue. Granite was impressed by his joyful tone of voice, but at the same time, he grew vigilant. I have heard that Patrosi is famous in the culinary world, but judging from this reaction, it seems his name is known in other different circles as well. If that's the case. After finishing his announcement, Patrosi returned to the stands, making eye contact with Granroot. You remember the contents of that letter? Of course, a child eats many dishes of food then disappears. The riddle was about why. With that in mind, the prizes for the swim run includes gourmet food supervised by you, the celebrity. It's unclear if this is from the Shitsuokai, but if this is a metaphor, then this could be using poison. I'm only supervising. I'm not involved in the actual cooking. That's where they could take advantage. So we'll need to be careful during the competition as well. Yeah, terrorist attacks at water stations could also be a possibility. Either way, there was someone who had to send these letters to Patrosi and Guy. Granite needed to take this into consideration, and so the two of them together felt a growing atmosphere of danger. Now I'd like to move on to explaining our new initiative. On stage, Dradolit spread his arms wide as he raised his voice. We've set up quiz-style checkpoints this time at various locations we're calling Wisdom Gates. It will put not only your bodies but your minds to the test. And in order to present a deeper challenge for all who've gathered from all over Vestria, I have taken the responsibility in inviting someone suitable for this endeavor. Dradolit spread his right arm out, directing the audience gaze towards the side of the stage. Oh. A masked figure then slowly rose up to the stage from the other side. Who's that? He's wearing a mask. It looks kinda creepy. The participants then murmured for a third time. It was understandable that masked figure Nemes did not look like he matched the swim run. However, there were several participants who looked even more disturbed. Hey, that mask, it's black and gold. You know, like the one everyone was talking about before? Huh? You're saying he's Shitsuokai? I mean, they did wear something similar, but... Stop talking nonsense. The host is the Lord of Cryono, did you forget? And what's more, the leader himself asked him to organize. No way he'd pick someone so dangerous. I guess that's true. Granite frowned deeper as he happened to overhear this conversation. As I expected, that mask is reminiscent of the Shitsuokai, but that other opinion has some merit. It cannot yet be definitely confirmed the person wearing that mask is a member of the Shitsuokai. However, it still wouldn't be a good idea to let my guard down. As Granite grew deep in thought, Dradolit stood right beside Nemes. The overall structure of these wisdom gates was conceived by Nemes here. Nemes is a master of riddles. As Dradolit was introducing Nemes, Nemes himself stepped forward to interrupt him. He then laughed defiantly as he raised his finger to the sky. Nemes? What? As Dradolit tilted his head behind him, a torrent of life emanated from Nemes' fingertips. A gust of wind then swirled up as dust rising in the air began to sparkle. It then began to form letters in the air. What's this? I am the engraver questions. I have no interest in the path, but it is good seeing those who suffer. Those who cannot answer will simply have to stop here. That is all there is to it. As he read the glowing letters aloud, Granite and the others turned their gazes back to Nemes. Nemes then smiled, even more amused than before. Now, Let us see if it can answer my riddle. In such a voice, the wind blew even harder as the shining letters crumbled. Then the sand that had formed the letters gathered around Nemes, concealing him. And once the wind died down, Nemes had vanished without a trace. Tradelet, or however you say, you did not do a background check? I thought those were things that you do when you apply for something. A background check. I guess you don't. Oh, as you can see, he's a rather unique person, but having met Nemes, I asked for his cooperation. I am confident this man will bring a new wind of knowledge to this tournament. A wind of knowledge? More like a wind of bodies. So, everyone, please look forward to the main event. Regarding the Wisdom Gates, an explanation of the rules will be given on the day of the tournament. Alright, participants, challengers, should I say? Use your brains and body to conquer this, the Altite swim run. Yay! Yay! At the same time he says this, fireworks lit up the sky, celebrating the beginning of the swim run. Watching Dradolit try to smooth things over and liven things up like that, Granite patted Patrosi on the shoulder, urging that they leave. And so, Granite and him went to the restaurant that Patrosi had recommended for dinner. Well, what the heck? You're a lot more tan than usual. Well, you're a lot more you got a huge... I was shocked. I didn't know they also did the tan on the original Sprite, but okay. Well, it seems nothing really happened at the opening ceremony. As soon as he sat down, Patrosi said this and laughed. However, Granite shrugged and sighed. Nothing at all, huh? What? You still curious about that Nemes guy? It would be a lie if I said I was not. I mean, he certainly was suspicious. But that's all as of now, and more importantly, there was no one else acting suspiciously at the venue. I see, but there's a possibility someone could show their true colors at the actual competition. In order to do something about it, we'll first have to be able to finish the run and swim properly. If our rankings are too low, we could be cut off. And if that happens, we won't be able to participate in any further competitions. It's not impossible, but the sender of that letter could grow suspicious of what was happening. If that happens, we may very well be put on the defensive. That's right, so we need to make sure we're ready to perform at our best during the actual event. Building physical strength is going to be essential. I'll leave the quiz portion to you. We can't tell what kind of questions will be asked or anything. Understood. That is what you requested after all. Well then, let's have a little send-off for just the two of us before we begin practice tomorrow. Serving this, Patrosi raised his hand towards the waiter. You can leave everything to me for today. The food critic's recommendations, huh? Looking forward to it. Granite finally let out a smile as the tension in his shoulders had been eased. Alright, this is called the quiz and a science of running. The science, I think. I think I switched them up, but yeah. A few days had passed since the swim run's opening ceremony. Granite and Patrosi had arrived at Alolatinan Resort, a relay point for the swim run, golly. Morning, Grand Root. Hey, Patrosi, you're right on time. There's no way I'd be late for such an important practice, right? Patrosi immediately began stretching as he said this. Granite also followed suit and started stretching. Aloha to the both of you. Going for a run again today, who? It's Manaya Kalani! How I know him is because his weapon is very useful for Kitan and Tagmard and other sword-related characters, so yeah. Manaya Kalani slowly approached as his cheerful voice rang out. Isn't much time left before the swim run, Speaking of which, are you going fishing again today? Yeah, I made plans to go fishing with Mao. I see, so you're going with Maonata. Granroot then pictured the face of Maonata, the man who had welcomed them when they arrived at Alolantinon Resort. And then suddenly, remembering the enthusiastic welcome he'd received at the time, he smiled. Please give my regard to Maonata. Sure, well then, do your best. Manaikalani waved his hand wildly before trudging away. Okay. After seeing Manaikalani off, Patrosi took a deep breath and quietly steeled himself. Let's try not to exhaust ourselves too early today. That's right. With a slight nod in agreement to Patrosi's words, Granroot slowly began to run. Wow. And then, a little while after they'd started running, the two were quickly exhausted by the heat and uncharacteristically long distance running. Hey, Granroot, maybe it would have been better to start practicing at Altite after all. This heat is definitely beyond what I was expecting. No, training on paved road like in Altite would put a great deal of stress on our legs and back. That's what I read in a book beforehand, at least. Therefore, the environment here at Alolantinon should be better than at Altite. As Granroot stepped into the shade, he slowly regulated his breathing to avoid straining his body. Besides, isn't it a good idea for us to get used to the heat? Well, it certainly is better than suffering during the actual competition, right? He said, though, Granroot also seems to understand what Patrosi was saying. I mean, it's not too bad because we haven't reached the peak of heat just yet. It's certainly true that by midday, it'll get too hot to even think about training. I suppose it's just a matter of getting used to the heat, but who knows when that will be. We could get in more training while it's cooler if we could just train a little more efficiently. Unfortunately, the book Granroot had purchased did not contain such detailed training methods. Maybe practicing blindly like this just won't work. Should we have a think about it ourselves? But neither of us are experts. Huh? Just as Granroot was pondering all this and let out a low groan, beyond this line of sight, a single shadow appeared against the shimmering landscape. Huh? Yo! The shadow was kicking up dusk and approaching at an astonishing speed. Huh? What's with that speed? Wait, hold on a second. Granroot! Oh, yes, I can tell. Granroot and Patrosi leapt out from the roadside shade, both spreading their arms wildly. They then called out to the shadow running towards them. Excuse us, do you have a second? Stop! You, stop! What the heck, are you a car or something? Oh, what is it? What is it? Upon spotting Granroot and Patrosi, the shadow stumbled as he slowed down. Then, after coming to a complete stop, he looked back and forth between their two faces. I'm actually in the middle of delivering a package addressed to Mr. Okay, I swear that the spelling is different here. Now it says Manauta, but I swear in the previous one it's a completely different. My goodness. Yeah. I'm actually in the middle of delivering a package addressed to Mr. Manauta. Sorry, we just wanted to speak to you for a moment. Speak with me. Guess I have a second. Thanks for that. I'm Patrosi, this is Granroot, and you are... I'm Dex. Dex, I see. Well, since you're out for delivery, I'll get straight to the point. You're pretty fast, but do you have any times for running fast for long periods of time? Fast for long periods of time? I see. First off, I personally wear shoes that strengthen my legs muscles. That's why I can run faster for longer than other people. But it isn't that just wearing these make you faster. You also need a certain level of leg strength. I see. Otherwise your legs won't be able to withstand the shoe's level of reinforcement. Without a solid foundation, the whole point of the reinforcement would be diminished. So, I see. So then how do you develop the foundation of your leg strength? About that, And so Dex began to explain what he thought were his secrets to running fast and far. Thanks to Granroot's persuasive skills, he unknowingly revealed all the secrets to his running ability. And that's it. All seem to get plenty of sleep. That's all there is to it. I see. You've given us a lot to think about. Really? Glad to hear it. Sorry for keeping you so long. Best of luck with your delivery. Thanks! As Patrosi said this, Dex broke out in a wild smile, then gave a slight bow before speeding off. Seeing this, Patrosi let out a dry laugh as he shook his head. He already shrunk so much, he's so far off. Quite amazing, actually. That's true, but we did unexpectedly come across some useful information. If we break down what we learned from Dex, we might be able to train more efficiently. Let's call it a day for today and revise our practice plan for tomorrow. No objection here. Alright then, let's head back. And so the pair returned to their hotel and spent until the late hours planning their practice session. The effects of such a sudden change in their training regime would soon become apparent. Because their abilities were increased through Divine Bond Awakening, they could train more intensely. It was evident that by knowing this they would obtain the endurance and power to withstand the swim run. Then after a while, with only a few days left until the main event, Granroot and Patrosi had returned to Altite. The town was overflowing with participants clad in swimsuits in anticipation of the swim run. Alright, from today it's time for us to train our brains. Granroot said this as soon as they had sat down at a spacious table in a suitable cafe. I do remember saying I'd leave this part to you. I'm willing to take the lead on the intellectual part, of course. You never know what might happen. Doesn't hurt to be prepared. That's true, however, this will be our first attempt at a wisdom gate. Wonder what kind of questions will be asked. Well, that's where deduction comes in, Patrosi. The organizers seem to want to attract attention to something new, but this is a traditional swim run. Perhaps the knowledge required for these wisdom gates isn't that high. If they made it too specialized, they might end up destroying the swim run itself. I see. They couldn't risk having that many participants getting held up. So as you said, we don't know what kind of question trends could pop up. But I think a moment of inspiration could be highly valuable. It's like the heat. We need to get used to an environment where flashes of inspiration are required. Granroot said this as he spread out a large number of quiz books on the table. Bought quite a lot again, huh? Patrosi picked up one of the books and began reading it. He then tossed out any question that caught his eye at Granroot. He would then answer the questions at a speed worthy of him being phrased as a detective. But this is where the subtle problems each would face began to surface. No wait, these questions are too easy. But could they be trick questions? No, perhaps. I don't think we need to overthink this, do you? Shouldn't jump to conclusions given there's room for consideration. Same as with the actual case. Granroot, this is a quiz, and these questions, they're for children. Even knowing the answer, it became clear Granroot had a bad habit of overthinking things. Being cautious may be a virtue, but how do you think this will go when the speed is of the essence? Well, And Patrosi on the other hand. The answer, is it number 1? It's number 3. Oh, I see. In my mind, it was either number 1 or number 3. I did give you the exact problem earlier. What kind of quiz books did you get? Huh? Did you now? It became clear he was interested in a little other than food, and his way of thinking was somewhat dull. It's highly unlikely that the same problems as in this book would appear in the actual event. But your interests are quite biased. Well, I'm not a... Oh my goodness. Well, I'm not a food critic for nothing. The pair leaned back in their chairs and looked up at the sky, both appearing exhausted. This is a whole different kind of fatigue. Yeah, but this is exhausted feeling. It's somewhat nostalgic. Nostalgic? What do you mean by that? When I was little, there was a time when I was obsessed with picture books with riddles. Picture books, huh? I certainly feel nostalgic about them too. My father was quite education focused, and there was a time when he would really spoil me. He would read books with pictures in them to me. Hard to imagine now, come to think of it. Now that you mention it, this is the first time I've heard about your father. It's not particularly interesting, so I don't really tell anyone. He may have loved me, but he only wanted to pass his status in the end. That of a nobleman, that is. We already saw this in Sweet Contest with Love. As a result, I chose the path of gourmet food, parting ways with my father. For me, it was the best choice I could have made. I see. Quite boring, right? But since we are on topic, would you mind telling me about your father? Bet he was a well-known detective as well, wasn't he? Maybe I even knew him. No, my father wasn't a detective. He was an employee at a small town hall. But he was always a busy person. He was often away from home. Perhaps that is why he brought me lots of picture books with riddles so I wouldn't feel lonely. And that's where I encountered the profession of the detective. I admired this protagonist who was a great detective, solving one riddle after another. Oh, so that's how the great detective was born. Sounds like something out of a book itself. So, what's he doing now? He passed away. He was falsely convicted of a crime. What? Falsely convicted? It's a personal matter, so I don't talk about it. But the Shitsuokai, they're related to my father. So if they're really involved in this incident, it would be something I can't overlook either. So that's what was going on. Thank you for telling me. I feel like I understand you better now. Or rather, it seems we were kindred spirits all along. I'm here to fight off threats to the food and drink industry. You're here to settle your father's score. Standing up against this criminal organization called the Shitsuokai, we are comrades. Great. This is getting interesting. Patrosi, who has now leaned forward over the table, grinned. Seeing this, the corners of Granroot's mouth also moved slightly. You're surprisingly passionate, Patrosi, but your words, they have solidified my resolve as well. First, it's the swim run. We'll run all the way to the very end to uncover the truth. Granroot rose from his chair and extended his right hand once again. Just as I was hoping. In response, Patrosi also stood up and firmly grasped his hand. Well, oh my goodness. I'm gonna split it in the end, if just in case. If I can continue, then I will, obviously make this long. But anyways, this will be part 1 of Altite Swim Contest. So, anyways, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see y'all whenever. Bye bye!